My wife cheated while I worked 2 jobs to pay her debts, so I filed quietly, took everything, and let her beg with no way. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and for most of my marriage, I truly believed that being a good husband meant carrying everything without complaining. I grew up thinking love was proven through endurance, through showing up even when you were tired, broke, or overwhelmed. So when my wife and I got married and her financial problems surfaced, I didn't see them as red flags. I saw them as my responsibility. She told me she had some old debts from before we met. Credit cards, a few bad decisions, stress she never fully recovered from. She cried the first time she told me, sitting on the edge of our bed, saying she felt ashamed and scared. I remember telling her, "We'll figure it out together." I meant it. I took a second job not long after that, working late nights and weekends, telling myself this was just a temporary season. She always framed it like bad luck had followed her. Bad timing. Bad influences. Bad circumstances. She said I was the only person who made her feel safe enough to breathe again. When I was exhausted, she'd rub my shoulders and say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without you," or "You're the only one strong enough to handle this." Those words mattered to me more than I realized. Slowly, an imbalance formed. I paid the rent. I covered utilities. I handled groceries. I picked up overtime instead of sleep. Meanwhile, she promised things would change soon. Promised she'd help more once the stress lifted. Promised loyalty, gratitude, forever. Whenever I hesitated or asked how much was left to pay off, her tone would shift. She'd get quiet. Hurt. Say I didn't trust her. Ask why I was making her feel like a burden. So I backed off. I apologized. I worked harder. At night, lying next to her, listening to her breathe while my body ached, I told myself this was what commitment looked like. That love meant endurance. That sacrifice would eventually bring peace, stability, and respect. I really believed that if I just kept carrying everything long enough, things would finally balance out. I'm still 31 at this point, still telling myself this was just a rough chapter, but something started to feel off once I looked at the numbers more closely. Month after month, I was sending money, covering bills, working double shifts, yet her debt never seemed to go down. Every time I asked, there was a new explanation waiting for me, already polished and emotional. The interest reset, she'd say. Or, I had to help my mom again. Sometimes it was medical stress, sometimes an old balance she forgot to mention. There was always a reason. She talked fast when she explained it, like if she spoke quickly enough, I wouldn't have time to question the logic. I remember sitting at the kitchen table late at night, my work boots still on, staring at my phone while she stood across from me with her arms folded, eyes glossy. "You don't think I want this gone?" she asked once, her voice cracking. "Do you think I enjoy feeling like a burden?" That word burden hit me hard every time. I started picking up extra shifts without telling anyone. I skipped lunches. I stopped buying anything for myself. The house felt quieter, heavier. Even the air felt tired. Some nights I'd come home after midnight, shoulders burning, and she'd already be asleep, her phone face down beside her. I told myself not to read into it. Whenever I tried to ask for clarity, actual numbers, statements, timelines, her mood would change. She'd accuse me of keeping score. Of turning love into a transaction. "I thought you supported me," she'd whisper, eyes filling just enough to make me feel cruel. Then she'd say something soft right after, like, "I just need you right now, or I wouldn't survive this without you." So I stopped pushing. Again. I paid the rent early. I covered another card. I told myself real husbands don't panic over money. Real husbands protect. And somehow, even as my exhaustion deepened and my savings vanished, I still believed this was temporary, that one day she'd look back and see how much I gave, and finally treat me with the respect I thought I was earning. But deep down, a quiet question started to whisper, why did it feel like nothing I did was ever enough? By the time I really noticed how one-sided everything had become, it already felt normal. That's the scary part. I was working 2 jobs, barely sleeping, living off gas station coffee and leftovers, while she somehow had more free time than ever. She'd sleep in late, scroll on her phone, go out to clear her head, and talk about how overwhelmed she felt, all while I was counting hours in overtime like they were lifelines. Little things started standing out. She had new clothes I didn't remember buying. Her phone was always face down now. Notifications buzzed, and she'd swipe them away quickly, smiling like nothing happened. When I asked casually, "Who was that?" she'd laugh and say, "You're getting paranoid," or "It's just a friend from work." The word friend started showing up a lot. Any concern I raised turned into a character flaw of mine. If I asked where money went, she said I was controlling. If I asked why she came home late, she said I didn't trust her. One night, exhausted, I said, "I just feel like I'm carrying everything alone." She sighed dramatically and said, "Wow, so now I'm a burden again?" The room went quiet after that. I apologized almost immediately, even though I didn't know what I'd done wrong. The emotional pressure was constant but subtle. Praise when I complied. Distance when I questioned. She'd tell me I was different lately, colder, less supportive. She'd remind me how hard her life had been before me, how lucky she was to finally feel safe. Hearing that made me feel guilty for even thinking something was wrong. I stopped talking to friends about my marriage. They asked why I looked tired all the time, and I brushed it off. I didn't want anyone planting doubts in my head. I wanted to believe in her. In us. Still, some nights, lying awake beside her, listening to the soft hum of her phone charging on the nightstand, a tight feeling settled in my chest. I couldn't explain it yet. I just knew I was giving more of myself every day, time, money, energy, and somehow becoming smaller because of it. And I didn't know how to stop. I'm still 31 here, still telling myself I'm overthinking everything, but this was the moment something finally cracked. It started small, almost stupid. I came home earlier than usual one night because my second shift got cancelled, and the apartment felt off. Too quiet. Too clean. Her shoes were by the door, but she wasn't home. Her car was gone too. That wasn't strange by itself, except she hadn't mentioned going anywhere. I texted her, "Hey, where are you?" No reply. An hour passed. Then two. My chest felt tight in a way I couldn't explain. When she finally responded, it was short, out. Be home soon. No heart emoji. No explanation. When she did come back, she avoided my eyes, kissed my cheek quickly, and went straight to the bathroom with her phone. Later that night, I noticed a notification light up on her screen while it was charging. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But the name flashed for half a second, someone I didn't recognize, followed by a heart emoji. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. When I asked her about it, trying to keep my voice calm, she sighed loudly like I had just accused her of a crime. "You're seriously checking my phone now," she said. "I can't even have friends without you interrogating me?" She told me it was a coworker. Said they joked around. Said I was being insecure because I was tired and stressed. Then she turned it around completely. "You've been distant lately. Maybe that's why you're imagining things." I remember sitting on the edge of the bed while she talked, nodding like a child being scolded. My chest felt hollow. My head buzzed. I wanted to argue, but I didn't trust my own thoughts anymore. She sounded so sure. So offended. So hurt. That night, she fell asleep quickly. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint buzz of the charger and the hum of the fridge in the next room. My instincts were screaming, but I pushed them down. I told myself I was tired. Paranoid. Unfair. Still, a quiet thought crept in and refused to leave. What if I wasn't wrong this time? After that night, I started noticing things I couldn't unsee anymore. Little cracks I'd ignored before began lining up into something uglier. Her stories didn't just feel off, they contradicted each other. One day she'd say she was with a coworker until late, the next she'd say she'd gone straight home. When I gently pointed out the mismatch, she laughed and said, "You're really overthinking everything lately." Money started disappearing faster too. Transfers I didn't recognize. Charges that didn't match what she told me. When I asked where it went, she'd sigh deeply and say, I already explained this, even when she hadn't. Sometimes she'd turn it emotional. Why do you keep acting like I'm lying to you? Other times she'd get cold and say, if you don't trust me, why are we even married? That question always shut me down. She began guarding her phone like it was an extension of her body. Screen face down. Password changed. Taking it with her even to the bathroom. If I walked into a room, conversations stopped mid-sentence. Once, I heard her laugh in a way she never laughed with me anymore, lighter, freer, and when she noticed me standing there, her smile disappeared instantly. The gaslighting got sharper. If I looked tired, she said I was imagining problems. If I sounded upset, she blamed my workload. She started using my exhaustion against me, saying things like, "You're not thinking clearly lately," or "You're projecting your stress onto me." After a while, I actually started doubting my own memory. I'd replay conversations in my head at work, trying to figure out if I really was being unfair. I felt stupid for even suspecting her. Ashamed for checking details. Ashamed for wanting answers. Meanwhile, I kept paying. Rent. Cards. Utilities. Emergency surprises. One night, alone in the kitchen, I stared at the bank app on my phone, hands shaking. The numbers didn't lie, even if everything else did. My chest felt tight, like something was pressing down on me from the inside. A thought formed that scared me more than any argument ever had. What if she wasn't just hiding things? What if she was using me? I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I made a quiet decision: I was going to start paying attention. I didn't plan to find out the way I did. It wasn't some dramatic confrontation or secret spy moment. It was an accident, the kind that permanently rewires your brain. One afternoon, she asked me to check something on her laptop while she showered. Her email was already open. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. Then a message preview popped up at the top of the screen. A name I didn't recognize. A heart emoji. And a line that made my stomach drop: "Last night was perfect. I miss you already." My hands started shaking before I even realized what I was reading. I clicked before I could stop myself. The thread opened, and suddenly everything I'd been doubting snapped into focus. There were weeks of messages. Flirting. Planning. Jokes that were too intimate to misunderstand. Complaints about me, about how tired I was, how I worked too much, how I was emotionally unavailable. Then I saw the money. Screenshots of transfers. Her sending him cash. Notes like "for dinner, for the hotel, sorry I can't stay longer." My chest went cold. My ears rang. I scrolled in disbelief as the truth settled in slowly, cruelly. The debt I had been killing myself to pay wasn't just old bills. It was funding her affair. I felt numb before I felt angry. Like my body shut something off to survive. Every late night. Every double shift. Every time I skipped sleep or food. I saw it all differently now: not sacrifice, not love, but fuel. I was paying for my own betrayal. When she came out of the bathroom, towel around her hair, she smiled like nothing was wrong. Asked what I wanted for dinner. I don't even remember what I said back. My mouth moved on instinct. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could hear it. I didn't confront her. Not then. Something inside me went very still, very clear. The confusion was gone. The doubt was gone. In its place was a quiet, terrifying certainty: she had been lying to me for a long time, and she had no idea I finally knew. And I understood, in that moment, that nothing between us was what I thought it was anymore. I didn't confront her right away, but the weight of what I knew sat in my chest like a stone. Every word she said after that sounded rehearsed. Every smile felt borrowed. I watched her closely, almost from outside myself, waiting for the right moment, or maybe just the moment I'd finally break. A few days later, after another late night where she claimed she was too tired to talk, something in me snapped. I told her I needed to ask her something serious. My voice shook, even though I tried to keep it calm. I asked who he was. Her face froze for half a second, just enough. Then came the denial. "What are you talking about?" she said sharply. I told her I'd seen the messages. The money. The names. Her eyes filled instantly, like a switch had been flipped. She accused me of invading her privacy, of betraying her trust. "How could you go through my things?" she cried, turning the focus away from what I'd actually found. When I didn't back down, the story changed. She admitted there was someone, but minimized it immediately. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. I was lonely. She blamed my long hours, my exhaustion, my absence. Said she felt invisible. Said she needed attention. Said I pushed her into it without realizing. I remember saying, quietly, "You used my money to see him." She hesitated, then said, "It wasn't like that." That was when something inside me cracked. She cried harder then, saying she was confused, overwhelmed, scared of losing me. She promised it was over. Swore it would never happen again. Reached for my hands like she used to. "Please," she whispered. "Don't throw everything away over this." And just like that, the guilt flipped back onto me. I was the one hurting her now. The one being cruel. The one making a mistake. I didn't yell. I didn't walk out. I nodded. I said I needed time. I said we'd talk later. She hugged me tightly, like she'd won something. But inside, something had gone cold. Because as she held me, apologizing and crying into my shoulder, I already knew the truth she didn't realize yet. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing what I provided. After that confrontation, everything felt unreal, like I was moving through my own life behind glass. On the surface, nothing changed. She acted softer, more affectionate, careful with her words. She cooked a little more. Touched my arm when she spoke. Said things like, "We'll get through this, and I just need your support right now." Anyone watching from the outside might have thought we were healing. Inside, I was unraveling. I barely slept. When I did, my dreams were loud and jagged, full of half-heard conversations and flashing phone screens. I'd wake up with my heart racing, already tired before the day even started. I went to work on autopilot, messed up simple tasks, stared at walls too long. My body showed up, but my mind was somewhere darker. The worst part was how small I'd become. I caught myself apologizing for things I hadn't done. Apologizing for my tone. For my silence. For being distant. She'd sigh and say, "I just need you to be patient with me," and I'd nod, even though patience was all I had left. I stopped bringing up the affair altogether. Talking about it made her upset, and I couldn't handle being the villain again. One night, I sat alone in my car after work, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. The sky was dark, the parking lot empty. I remember thinking, I don't recognize myself anymore. I was exhausted, broke, humiliated, and still paying for the life she was quietly living without me. I checked my bank account and felt physically sick. Another transfer gone. Another lie dressed up as an emergency. My chest tightened so hard I had to lean forward just to breathe. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't her partner. I was her safety net. Her backup plan. Her wallet. I cried there, alone in the car, in a way I hadn't since I was a kid. Not loud. Just silent tears, shaking hands, a deep, aching grief for the person I used to be. The one who believed love meant loyalty. The one who thought effort could fix betrayal. That night, something finally broke, but not in a dramatic way. It was quieter than that. Colder. For the first time, I didn't think about fixing us. I started thinking about saving myself. After that night in the car, something inside me shifted into a strange, calm focus. The pain was still there, heavy and constant, but it stopped controlling me. I stopped confronting her. Stopped asking questions. Stopped reacting. On the outside, I became easier, quieter, almost agreeable. Inside, I was watching everything. I started paying attention in a different way. I noticed patterns instead of excuses. Times she left. Times she lied without blinking. How relaxed she seemed when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She mistook my silence for forgiveness. For weakness. For victory. I began gathering things quietly. Bank statements. Transaction histories. Loan records. Screenshots of messages I'd already seen and ones I carefully documented when the chance came. I learned how to check shared accounts without triggering alerts. I read late at night, scrolling through legal forums and divorce advice while she slept beside me, breathing evenly, unaware. There was something eerie about living two lives under the same roof. During the day, I played the role she expected: supportive, calm, tired husband. I nodded when she complained. I said it's okay when she apologized without changing. I even reassured her when she looked nervous, telling her we were fine. Each word tasted bitter, but it kept her careless. She grew comfortable again. Careless enough to talk freely on the phone. Careless enough to leave receipts lying around. Careless enough to keep moving money like I wasn't paying attention anymore. I watched her confidence return, and with it, a kind of arrogance, the kind that comes from believing someone will never leave. Meanwhile, I started protecting what little I had left. I separated accounts slowly, quietly. I stopped pouring extra money into the black hole she called debt. I documented everything: dates, amounts, patterns. I learned words I never thought I'd need to know. Terms about assets. About filings. About rights. At night, the house felt different. Quieter. Colder. The air felt heavy with secrets. Sometimes she'd curl up next to me, trusting, relaxed, and I'd stare at the ceiling, heart pounding, thinking about how strange it was to plan your escape beside the person who broke you. I wasn't angry anymore. I was preparing. And she had no idea how close everything was to changing. The day I finally did it didn't feel dramatic. There was no music, no shouting, no sudden rush of courage. It was quiet. Ordinary. Almost disappointingly calm. I woke up early, before she did, and sat at the edge of the bed listening to her breathe. For a moment, I felt a flicker of guilt, not because I was wrong, but because I knew she had no idea what was coming. I went to work like any other day, except I didn't go to work. I drove across town with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles hurt. The building I walked into was small and plain, the kind you'd never notice if you passed it on the street. Inside, everything smelled like old paper and coffee. My heart was pounding, but my voice stayed steady as I said what I'd practiced saying in my head for weeks. I was ready to file. Signing those papers felt surreal. Each page made it more real, more final. I read everything carefully, asked questions, made sure the protections were in place. I had already separated what I could. Documented what I needed. I wasn't angry anymore, just focused. Calm in a way that scared me a little. When I walked back outside, the sun felt too bright. My phone buzzed with a message from her: "Can you pick up dinner tonight?" I stared at it for a long time before replying, "We'll talk later." That night, she acted normal. Chatty. Light. She told me about her day, laughed at something on her phone, leaned against me on the couch. I watched her like a stranger wearing my wife's face. Every laugh felt borrowed. Every word felt delayed. A few days later, she came home to an envelope on the table. I wasn't there when she opened it. She called me over and over. Texted in bursts. Confused. Panicked. Angry. Then scared. Her messages blurred together. What is this? Is this a joke? You can't be serious. For the first time in a long while, I didn't rush to explain. I didn't soften it. I didn't rescue her from the consequences. I just let the silence do what it needed to do. Her messages changed tone fast. At first they were sharp and confused, then panicked, then suddenly soft. My phone kept lighting up while I sat alone in my car, staring at nothing. Please call me. We need to talk. You can't do this without talking to me. I didn't answer. For once, I let the silence speak. When we finally did talk, it was on her terms, frantic, tearful, unsteady. She said she didn't understand how things had gone this far. She said she thought we were getting better. That she thought I'd forgiven her. I listened quietly while she unraveled, her voice cracking in ways I'd never heard before. Then the apologies came. Real ones, she claimed. She said she was scared. That she'd made mistakes. That she never meant to hurt me. She swore the affair didn't mean anything and that she had already cut contact. She told me she loved me, that she always had. That we could fix this if I just gave her one more chance. When that didn't work, the fear crept in. She started asking about money. About the bills. About how she was supposed to manage everything on her own. Her voice shook as she said she didn't know how she'd survive. That she had nowhere to go. That she felt like I was abandoning her. The irony almost knocked the breath out of me. I finally told her the truth, calmly, evenly. That I knew where the money went. That I knew who it went to. That I knew how long it had been happening. There was a long silence on the other end. Then came sobbing. Real, broken sobbing. She kept saying my name like it might pull me back. I made mistakes, she cried. But you're throwing everything away. That was the moment something clicked. She wasn't begging for me. She was begging for the safety I provided. The stability. The bills I paid. The life she didn't have to earn. For the first time, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, quietly, I already gave you everything I had. And for once, I meant goodbye. It's been months since everything ended, and I still think about how strange peace feels when you're not used to it. The house is quieter now, but not heavy. The silence doesn't press on my chest anymore. It feels earned. Clean. Mine. I didn't walk away with revenge or dramatic victories, I walked away with something better, clarity. The first weeks were hard. I won't lie about that. There were nights I sat alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying years of my life and wondering how I let myself disappear so completely. But slowly, something shifted. My money stopped vanishing. My sleep came back in pieces. I started waking up without dread sitting in my stomach. I realized how much of my exhaustion had come from carrying someone who never planned to carry me back. I started rebuilding in small, quiet ways. Cooking for myself. Going on walks after work. Saying no without apologizing. Every boundary felt awkward at first, like learning a new language. But each one made me feel a little more solid. A little more real. I wasn't fixing anyone anymore. I was finally taking care of myself. Sometimes I think about her. Not with anger, more with a distant sadness. I wonder if she ever truly understood what she did, or if she only misses the security she lost. I don't need answers anymore. That chapter closed the moment I chose myself without explaining, without begging, without staying. The strange part is this, I didn't need to destroy her life to feel justice. I didn't need revenge or public drama. Walking away with my dignity intact was enough. Letting her face the consequences of her choices on her own was enough. I used to believe love meant sacrifice without limits. That real commitment meant carrying everything alone. Now I know better. Love isn't supposed to hollow you out. It's not supposed to cost your self-respect. I'm still healing. Still learning who I am without survival mode running the show. But for the first time in a long time, I feel steady. Grounded. And if there's one thing I know for sure now, it's this, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's how you finally stop disappearing.